everything was for others before self-care. Everything was for others, and then the women's self-care became the last thing, including the women's health. And we see that in our patients as well. And that's why so many of them need chiropractic care, because they're going through some of this traditional use of energy that is always looking to do all of these activities, and at the same time you can't look ragged, you can't look worn down, you can't look like you have bags under your eyes. You're supposed to do all of this, be happy about it, and look good while you do it. But today is to help those women and for those that reached out that wanted something that's geared towards them and some of the challenges that we face. So some of the challenges, start things that, people don't want to voice, or sometimes even the guys just don't want to hear, but things about PMS, menstrual cramps. How do you manage menstrual cramps? And not take Tylenol and Advil, because that's not part of the chiropractic lifestyle, but you could be crawling on the floor with pain, wetting through your pants, needing a new pair of pants to get through the day. You could deal with the headaches, the moods that go along with just dealing with pain in general. We can get into, when you start having children, how to deal with round ligament pain and still adjusting, and how do you change your adjusting techniques? I know when
Dr. Justine. Oh, you're back.
there you go. A lot of sore boobs. How do you deal with adjusting life when you've got sore boobs? For guys, this would be, mine went from a B to a double D. So it would be similar to you carrying coconuts in your underwear. It's tough. If your chest gets 4 times the size. Dealing with breastfeeding and you have letdown. So baby cries, and next thing you know, you got a wet shirt. I remember doing a doctor's report with 2 wet spots on my chest because I had gone now through the second shirt of the day, and I looked like torpedoes as I gave my doctor's report. And it would be similar if, say, you dropped a milkshake on your privates, and you had to do the doctor's report with a white blotch on the front of your pants. It's hard to do. Or as you're changing sizes, I remember splitting my pants and doing a doctor's report with a massive hole in the back of my pants, and trying to make sure that nobody could see that hole until my husband got there with a sweater or something that I could wrap around my waist. Swelling, bloating, menopause changes, hot flashes changes, emotions that ride the roller coaster, always trying to work for others, feeling less than, ovary pains as you get older. It can be quite sharp, or ovarian cysts that can be quite painful and knock you to your knees, but you still gotta go to work, and just not feeling like you have enough self-time because you're trying to do everything at the office, everything at home, and everything for everyone else in your family and community, but you're last. And so there are challenges between the guys and the girls. And some of the challenges I'm sure that guys have that are different, but our goal with this call was to empower women. And I remember with Pastor Chambers, we were talking about he was talking about the differences between men and women, and that guys were more like a caboose. So they were like a train. They had one caboose, and they had one thought and did that one thing really well. And then they worked on to the next thing and did that one thing really well. Whereas women would be more like a merry-go-round. They have everything going all the time and nothing shuts off. And when one thing goes up, the other thing goes down, and you feel like shit because the other thing went down, and you never feel good about the thing that went up because you're always worried about how do you balance that merry-go-round. So you're never really trying to get to that PTC, that present time consciousness. Where you can put your videos on, that's great. You guys are welcome to listen to. I don't have anything to hide. But you're constantly thinking about, yes, you want to do great for the patient in front of you, whether you're running the office or you're the doctor, but you're also like, what's happening with my kids? Am I going to get dinner? Do I have enough food? Who's picking up the kids? What's the schedule for the kids? Um, do I have the vitamins? Who's driving the kids? It's a constant multitasking. And I, even this morning, I write out my agenda for the morning, but I'm making sure, is the laundry going to get it going? Is the food there? Is the office training happening? So you're multitasking that merry-go-round. And even like Pastor Chambers said, like, even to make love with your significant other, you got to turn the merry-go-round off, right? Or you're just not there in the present moment. And as Pastor Chambers said, that this is good. Women are different. They do have that feminine energy that is different. Um, and that's a great thing, because in the office, there are things that I can do that my husband can't as a chiropractor. I can get a lot more hugs. I can hug the guys, I can hug the girls. Um, there's just a different energy to be able to have touch and to hug, to be able to show empathy, to have tears. When I mean, just yesterday, the person lost her husband, and it was just the day before, but coming in to get their adjustment and to be hugged, to have that touch the next day after losing her husband. And many women, I know men can do this as well, but they do have great skills in this multitasking. So instead of looking at the merry-go-round being a bad thing, it's absolutely an amazing skill, even if it has to be turned off at times, to really pay attention to that one thing, like Pastor Chambers said, to make love, or to focus on that one patient, or to focus on your child or your spouse at that specific time, or your staff member right in front of you. Instead of the one staff member in front of you, you might be thinking of the 10 other staff members, or the 10 other problems or fires that are on your plate. So we do have 3 calls to try this year to help women with some of these challenges, and to answer some of the questions. And I put my cell phone there because I've been through it and I've lived through the challenges of trying to do the what my coaches were telling me to do, and yet I was so tired all the time that I would fall asleep anytime I got in the car, including if I was driving it. 2 accidents on the 401, falling asleep. Constantly, I'd be in a conversation with my husband and fall asleep standing up because I was so tired to try and do everything, or trying to be the best mom all the time, as well as be at the office and grow the business. So today is all about how do we create successful women, but the exercises will be great for successful men all the time. We want to go from coping, or just trying to cope or get by through each day, feeling, less than, or not worthy, or not able to keep up with all the tasks, everything on our merry-go-round, um, and feeling overwhelmed. And I think many women can feel that overwhelmed, that we're not good enough. We're not doing good at anything. We're not being the best mom. We're not being the best wife. We're not being the best sister, the best daughter. Um, we're not able to juggle all of the things. And our goal is to try and have limitless energy, some drive, some focus, the inner peace, that we are doing a good job. So that's the goal of the talk today, is to get that energy, to feel good about ourselves, even if we have the seasons of life, like Dr. Sarah says, those ups and downs, those ebbs and flows, where, say with Michelle, you're going to be focusing on more children, means that something's coming off the plate at times. I remember in my first trimester, I fell asleep in between periods at hockey. Like, there was so much fatigue. And then as you're breastfeeding, how do you manage? When I was, creating a schedule, and was that the best thing for the kids? Where I needed a schedule, so I was breastfeeding every 3 hours, so I could organize the patients around it. I could organize um, staff meetings around it, and I could organize sports around those 3 hour set feeding times in order to breastfeed for 4.5 years. How do you do that? Of course, that's less sleep too. And how do you get your partner in order to support you through that? One of those biggest things that you can give to your kids is breastfeeding. So there will be those ups and downs. The traditional roles for a female's energy, that's what I grew up in. I grew up in a Catholic family. Even though I wanted to play hockey, we had specific sort of roles of what a woman did and what a man did in a household. Even when my parents divorced, there was still, even though my mom divorced to become a feminist, there were still expectations between my brother and I that were very different. From a young age, it was internalized about our roles being different in the household. For my mom, it was, and for myself, it was always family first and extended family first, work and home, taking care of the home. I remember my stepmother, like, if anybody was visit, she would quickly vacuum so you'd have the nice lines in the carpet and everything would be clean all the time. And then I see myself, I come home after working a 70-hour week Friday night. My husband can watch TV and watch sports. And the first thing I got to do is make sure the dishes are done, make sure the shoes are organized, the laundry's in, paperwork's done. And then I can sit down an hour later, even though I got home an hour after him, before I can relax because I can't have the house a mess because I was ingrained as a young girl that the home had to be prepared and that was my job. I couldn't have a mess at any time. Then comes giving back, volunteering to your church, to your community, coaching, to your religion. Um, Everything was for others before self care. Everything was for others. And then the women's self care became the last thing, including the women's health. And we see that in our patients as well. And that's why so many of them need chiropractic care because they're going through some of this traditional use of energy that it's always looking to do all of these activities. And at the same time, you can't look ragged. You can't look worn down. You can't look like you have bags under your eyes. You're supposed to do all of this, be happy about it, and look good while you do it, and not complain. That's the way I grew up. And unfortunately, we're still socializing many of our girls today in that way. And our female patients are feeling that stress of overwhelm to manage all this. So, coming up is how to manage it, how to deal with the blocks, and some solutions. Um, we're going to go into the women's belief about success. Uh, and this is a long term belief, but women's work long term has been undervalued. And I'm guilty of this. I can tell you from personal experience, divorced parents, my mom went into the work field, taught during the day in order to, as a single parent mom, also taught at night. So she was doing two jobs as well as coaching, volunteering. In order to run the household. But my stepmother was a stay-home mom. And as a young child, I remember thinking that a stay-home mom, like, that's not a real job. Like, you don't work that hard because my mom is doing the work plus the same home job. And many of our moms, especially if you get into some of our different ethnicity cultures, are doing the double job. And I, as a young child, now I totally respect it differently. And I have learned. So I had to change my views on this. But a woman's role of success, if they stayed in the house, was undervalued. And even men were undervalued if they stayed home. It's even harder for them. And I know my own husband, who worked less hours than I did, saw less patients than I did, often found, even with Max Living, with the coaches, many different coaches, that somehow he was lesser than because he took a huge role with driving the kids. Because if I drove, I fell asleep. So we had to find a way to work it out to make the kids the number one priority. But somehow he was a lesser man or lesser because he didn't produce more income or see more patients, see more numbers. And so we start to judge people if they don't produce money, produce patients, and have a bigger business and stay home. And yet, my stepmother, when I look back, was a stay home mom, was a success for my dad. My dad became extremely successful, becoming vice president of what's called PricewaterhouseCoopers, a big accounting consulting firm. And that meant many times he was out of the house 20 days or more a month, traveling every single week. All right, he was traveling every single week. I remember some Decembers, even over Christmas, he traveled 30 days and home for Christmas Day. My stepmother would pack his bags, do all his laundry, pack his suitcases, prepare all his food. She did everything behind the scenes for him to be successful and did everything for my sister to be successful. His whole success was dependent on how she ran the home because he didn't have to think about it. She ran all the bills or all the people, the fix it people, whatever you needed to do the grass, do the snow, she ran it, the cottage, um, their properties. She ran all of that so he could focus on the one thing and do it well. And then when we was home, he would come home and have paperwork and fall asleep on the couch, and she still ran everything, but didn't get the recognition she deserved. So, unfortunately, people who run the home back then and still sometimes today don't get the respect of what how big a job that is and how we can hire help. And for us to run it in our household, because I was building the business and I thought that was the road to success is grow, 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 grow to 1,000 a week. Like that's what they taught us to get to 1,000 a week. That meant I was seeing around 800 a week. I think my biggest was 850 a week by myself. Um, the others in the office seeing around 200, 250 a week. So we were well over 1,000. And then I burnt out. I got hurt. And you're seeing more of that because I didn't hire enough help in the office, even though I hired help in the home. And that takes, and we're going to come up to that. Well, how do you delegate? Even the things that might be uncomfortable to delegate, which is coming up. So, when we talk about the belief of success, women or people, men or women who are in the home, do deserve to be valued more and are undervalued for all of the work they're inside. Women can often see themselves as um, uh, internalizing that they're not doing a great job. They start to dislike themselves, or they tend to manage this overwhelm by putting themselves down that I'm not a good enough mom, I'm not a good enough sister, I'm not a good enough daughter, um, that I'm not strong enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not slim enough, I'm not attractive enough, pretty enough, I'm not, right? Like we're just not meeting up to our own personal expectations. And yet, even our spouse thinks we have all those skills, but even if they tell us, we don't even believe them because we've internalized that we haven't met up to those expectations, which lowers our overall energy because we're never meeting or never succeeding at our goals or succeeding at and even celebrating the things that we are able to get done. So it creates that negative Nelly negative chatter in our mind, and so then as this merry-go-round is going up and down, we're hitting the lows and talking about the lows and never enjoying the highs. And if we don't talk about the negative Nelly inside our head, women tend to be negative gossip outside. And I can personally tell you, because I have the opportunity to be in the guys' hockey dressing room and the girls' hockey dressing room, and I've done that actually in lacrosse as well. So in three different sports, I have the opportunity to actually four, because also with figure skating, because I did go to nationals for figure skating. I've seen the differences, and women are different, and women can be big bees. Like they can be mean, like the way they gossip, the way they'll put someone else's clothes down, figure down, how they live their lives different, the car down. It's crazy. And then when they have a grudge, they hold the grudge way longer. Guys, typically, if there is a grudge, punch it out, slam it out, swear, and it's over. Let's play the game or the game of life. But women do gossip. They do hold those grudges much longer, and it makes running a office different because the guys can think the problem is over, but the girl, it's still in there. It hasn't been talked out enough, and for many women, it needs to be talked and talked and talked and talked until they've been able to let go. And letting go is seems for many women can seem to be much harder. So the negative vibe when you have a female group of teams can be harder to manage. And it can be an undercurrent that, if it's not dealt with, it becomes an undercurrent that's affecting the energy within the team or within the home. And that can be really difficult if that energy is negative, and your kids can feel it, even though it's not spoken out loud. Um, and then we tend to compare ourselves to other females, on how successful they are. Um, I even have many female chiropractors, and I feel like they compare to me, and I'm like, but I didn't do it all right. Like I made a ton of mistakes here. Or we compare ourselves to other moms who seem to, have better baking than you do, or seem like they've got better clothes or better fashion sense. Um, or have better balance, better car, like it's just better house, husband has a better job, whatever the situation is. Comparing is the enemy, really. And I can tell you where an example of where it really affected me. At beginning practice, I used to mastermind with Freddie So and Frenchie and Mark Foulon. So we had our group of masterminds. I was seeing the same numbers or higher, running a multidisciplinary center compared to them, who ran a fully chiropractic center. But what a great mastermind! So we went to Freddie So's house in Oakville. And I remember getting to his house, and oh my God, it was gorgeous. It had, like, in a very expensive area, everything was modern. He had the best clothes, the best cars. He had amazing kitchen, like just the gorgeous kitchen. All trees on the side, so nobody on the one side of his house, no houses in front of his house. In the backyard, you couldn't see other houses. All these great landscaped backyard, landscaped, all trees, and it was just this gorgeous house. I'm like, holy cow, what am I doing wrong? Like, uh, my house needs a new kitchen, like the kitchens from the 80s, like laundry rooms from the 80s. I'm still driving a secondhand car that I bought from my mom. Blake's got a secondhand car as well. We're like, what the hell? Um, and yet I started to compare and feel lesser because he was borrowing money to have all of these things, and that felt created success for him, and he did very well. But it made me feel lesser because I was saving the money, and not spending the money. And yet, both areas, neither was right or wrong. It was only me that allowed my comparison to make me feel lesser than, and to make me think that my decisions of saving money in order to buy more property was a poor decision. And it took quite a while for me to get over it and feel good about myself, that even though I didn't have the beautiful home, the beautiful cars, the beautiful backyard, and I lived a life where I wouldn't buy anything unless I had all the money saved. That was my process. I wanted to have my house mortgage free before I was 40. I wanted to be absolutely debt free before 40, and have 100,000 saved so I could buy my redo my kitchen. And I wasn't going to redo my kitchen if I had to finance it. So I lived with a different mindset, but I had to accept that. And so when we compare, and I'm sure some of you have compared, if you look back at something with somebody, we have different negative coping mechanisms. And for women, men, it can be crying. That's not a bad way. But I grew up with, if you cried, you were a suck, you were a wimp. I don't know what politically correct words are, so I'm going to try and be careful. But there was a lot of words that I would have negative Nelly if I were crying. So, do that in private. Don't make sure that you're with your own pillow. If you felt shitty about yourself, or you would just shut down and not talk it out. And that when you shut down, that would shut down your practice, that would shut down with your kids. You would be quiet, you would internalize. Um, you could start not trying, just and sabotage yourself. Well, if I can't do that, I'll just quit. I won't try. Um, start gossiping with somebody else who has lesser than or also feels the same and feels that competition. Uh, you could start to make poor decisions or make no decisions, get into that zombie zone. In that slippery slope can also lead to anxiety, tension, depression. For me, headaches, that it would lead tension. I always heard when I grew up with the women in my life that say, "Oh, it's shopping therapy." I still hear it. And after writing the U.S. boards, I went shopping therapy to sport check. Like, I'm like, I'm still doing this in my 50s, shopping therapy, because that's what I grew up with. Um, and spending money. And we see that women, when they're under this stress or this comparing method, they're spending, big dollars on a purse that's just a bag you carry around, or jewelry, or um, clothes to keep up with the latest fashions. Just find ways to spend money when we really have great stuff in our own closets, or need the newest car to to compete. Um, Gambling, uh, making sure you have the best nails. We see women that the fingers got to look good and the toes got to look good, in order to get out of the house, even though nobody sees your toes. Um, and some of this leads to real challenges in our relationships, even divorces. I know with my own cousins, I have a family and they had these massive weddings, 6 kids in the family. Weddings were outstanding. Every cousin outdid the other cousin with weddings that, back then were maybe 100,000. Today they would have been, for the value that they had there, 300,000. And 4 out of the 6 cousins got divorced. Um, and part of it became this compare game that they played. And so these are real compare that can lead to these challenges based on our thoughts of success that are completely outdated. Um, so I thought of 3 ways that are these outdated ways to deal with success. We're defining ourselves. Number one is defining ourselves by getting the goal. And I was guilty of that. The goal was to get to 1,000 a week. And I defined myself as I wanted to be 1,000 a week chiropractor, and yet destroyed my back in the process. On Christmas, I'm in the hospital. My family's in Saskatchewan because we'd already planned the holidays, and I'm alone. I remember waking up in the hospital because I was in the hospital with such a severe back. I couldn't, as diapers, I couldn't lift my head because of disc injuries. I couldn't eat on my own. And I wake up it was on New Year's. So I was in there for Christmas and then also for New Year's. And I wake up with my patient sitting beside me at midnight on New Year's. So a pretty low moment. Um, for what? Right? Like just to hit 1,000 a week, to make sure I'm trying to get there to hit 1,000 a week on my own without another adjusting doctor, without help, not realizing that a lot of the top doctors in the world have help. And thinking that I'm divining my own personal value on how I can be the best doctor, best mom, best wife, best everything, and never having a down moment. And in honesty, when I look back to finding myself on getting those goals, it was because I wanted to be recognized by my dad. Divorced, I find this part hard, but I have divorced parents, and my dad had lived that busy life, and then all of a sudden I was doing exactly the same. And I just wanted him to see me as being as successful as him, even though I may never, make the money that he did, and be able to have the gifts that he did. He was so generous. He gave each of his kids 50,000 for buying a home. Looks like he's going to do the same for the grandkids. Um, you know, planning trips that were over 100,000 so that all the family could go, when we couldn't afford to pay ourselves. So I wanted to be able to have that philanthropy that he's done over the years. So I kept comparing myself also to my dad, and to try and get that recognition from my dad. And so I ask you, who are you getting the goals for? And are they even for yourself? Are they for recognition? Are they for another reason? Are they truly deserve? And it's okay to get help in those goals. Number 2 is allowing others to set the goals. And I allowed that to happen too. I allowed the coaches to push me to meet those goals, even though I knew I was falling apart physically and emotionally, to the point that when I did crash for my back, and I still, that's 2017, I still deal with chronic pain every single day. Today, I still deal with uh, hurt that I would need. I use stem cell patches. They do help from healing from the inside out, but there's still this guilt that why would a chiropractor have daily pain, you know? So how do you manage that? So allowing others to set my goals, to be that 1,000 a week chiropractor instead of really I wanted to be the best mom, the best wife. That was truly my priorities, but I wasn't living according to those priorities. So some coaches, they say, you know, you got to get 200 a week, you got to 300 a week, versus like the most important thing is breastfeeding. The most important thing is, um, you know, time with your baby, um, time with your significant others. I know my sister-in-law, I respect her so well, Dr. Lori Broker. Her daughter was suffering at school and I guess not behaving, and things weren't going well. So she cut her hours right back, and she only worked mornings. She shut her office down. Finished at I think 2:30, 3 o'clock. She's like, screw it. The most important thing is my child. As a single, she was a single mom, and I'm just going to change my hours completely. And she put her child first. And I respected that so much, even though her numbers went down. She's, you know, somebody could see 500 a week goes to 200 a week. So what? Figure out the finances and put what's first, and don't have to suffer the breakdown or the consequences that you might have later. So there are pressures to succeed, to be the best doctor, to be the best wife, and figuring out that we're living is, um, by exactly what we want and our values is sometimes harder because it gets really blurry in those lines. And that requires finding time alone to figure out what the number one priorities and really questioning yourself, those close to you, your friends, your family. Are you living according to that? And when I was doing it, I just meant less sleep. You know, was go to bed at midnight. Many days in my growth periods, get up at 3:30, 4 o'clock. I remember days going to my daughter's figure skating. I also I had to be fit. So I remember going to Stratford, and I would get up at 3:30 a.m. so I could run 3:30 to 4:30, shower. And by 5:30, you had to get 18 girls' hair done, makeup done in order for them to do the synchronized swimming, figure skating. And the other parents were a mess. They're calling out, we need Advil, we need coffee. And I'm like, holy crap, leave, feed them. And they'd feed them Pop Tarts while I made sure that I had a protein shake and a healthy muffin and healthy food for my child. But then I'd get to the rink and crash, you know, and later get sick. So that crash and burn was probably not the best way in order to make sure you did everything right while I bring my paperwork to the rink. So number one was defining ourselves by getting the goal. Number two was allowing others to set our goals or influence our goals. And number three is feeling successful only if someone else validates it. And I was looking for that validation from my dad, and yet he's not the kind of person that does that. It's interesting. I didn't grow up with him saying like I'm proud of you, or he's not a big I love you kind of person. And yet I find out later in my 50s, he would talk about me to aunts and uncles and others about how proud he was, but he just didn't know how to say that to me personally. So sometimes we validate ourselves as women about we only if someone else recognizes us, instead of just feeling great because we recognize ourselves, or we validate ourselves on how our kids do. Did they do well at school? Did they get an A on their project? Did they get a good report card? Did they score a goal? Did they get extra ice time? Did they get recognized by their coach? We're creating our own validity based on how the kids get validity, because that creates validity for us to be that good parent and to look good. Instead of saying, hey, I just had a successful day because I got up out of bed. For me, you know, I tried to find, I got out of bed, I got the heat on my back, and I started yoga and stretches. I was able to move today. That's a success. when I was starting to learn and my numbers did come down, a success was I made a healthy lunch for my kids. I success was I put the vitamins out for the family. Changing, I made sure I'm a morning person, so I made sure that there's coffee for my husband. What little steps can I create success and stack up those little things for a successful life rather than so how somebody else defines it. So if that's the outdated model, what is the new model? Uh, Success is, of course, the process, not the actual getting of the goals. Success is just getting the kids to school. Maybe it isn't the perfect lunch. Um, Success is okay if your grandparent in the family took them to Dairy Queen. I remember trying to compete with trying to have the kids have the perfect food, try to have them have the perfect maximized living lifestyle. Perfect success is okay if you forgot to adjust your kids that week, or you didn't do a progress exam with your kids, or if you looked back a year and you didn't do your kids' x-rays, you're still a great parent. If you didn't be that perfect parent, success is you took time to read. Um, and most importantly, success is when you bounce back when you failed. When you in my negative mind, where I would use effed up. All right, you still got up, uh, and you were still a success. I think of playing hockey just on last Sunday night. One of the guys on there's two guys on the team. They're in their 20s, and holy cow, 52, trying to keep up with these 22, 23-year-old boys that are very good hockey players. So my goal with stopping Nick is if I can slow him down 5 out of 10 times, I've been successful that game. And I got bruises all over my legs from trying to be a fly, to tackle this guy that's 6'2". But I was a success just because I was able to stop 50%, So the redefining that success. So if this is the time, right now, start to get your pen out to think about 5 things that are so small that make you a success. Think about 5 things that you do and write them down, because most of the time we don't write down things or type it if you're Steve with his amazing iPad thing. Um, Write down, type down 5 little things that you're successful for, right? I think of the Zewart family coming to a seminar, and I was so amazed and thought how successful they were just bringing the kids. Just amazing organizing special food, right? I think that's awesome. That is a success to be that organized, to just pack their suitcase in your own suitcase and not forget something. So think of 5 things. That make you successful that maybe someone else wouldn't see as successful while I'm chatting. So our goal is to own our personal qualities, to regain that power, focusing on who we are, not what we do. Focusing on who we are, or who we are not, and not focusing on what we do. The goal is to focus on being and not doing. And that's hard for me because my love language is do shit for others and do as much shit as I can for others. And I think many women, that's the goal, is what can I do for the family? That's a huge love language. But if we can focus on who being, we're going to reduce that stress, that anxiety, enjoy those failures, those ups and downs. So we're going to go in again with your pen right now, because we're going to make a list of 10 qualities that make you that success. All right, 10 qualities. So write down any quality. You're going to have three categories. One is I am, like I am this quality. The second category is something I'd like to be or I want to be. And the third category is what other people want me to be. So what I am now, what others like or want, and what others want. And you can have this category in all three. All right. So shorthand is the way you're going to go right now. Practice that like school. So qualities, affectionate. We're going to start in alphabetical order. So affectionate, appreciative, assertive, your A's. Affectionate, appreciative, assertive, artistic. Go into the B's. Brave, businesslike. C, calm, caring, committed. Common sense, amazing communicator, compassionate, considerate, contented, cooperative, creative, and curious. It's a lot of C's. So calm, caring, committed, great common sense, communicator, compassionate, considerate, content, cooperative, creative, curious, and dedicated. What is the one, if you're just looking at what you are, what's the one that sticks out the most? Are you dedicated, dependent, diligent, disciplined? Where does that fit in who you are? Are you eager, jump in attitude, jump into everything, efficient, encouraging, excited about life? Are you fair, looking for justice, emotional, feeling, focused, forceful, forgiving, frank, free-spirited, friendly, have lots of friends, funny? And it's interesting, we could go through this list and I'm reading them and I think about, well, what my husband is. And so our loved ones can have these amazing, but right now, again, is the time to focus on yourself. Focused, forceful, forgiving, free-spirited, friendly, funny, gentle or generous, happy, hardworking, health conscious, honest, funny or humorous, imaginative, and independent. So, for example, I would love to say I'm independent, but really it's what I want or I like, but I'm truly not independent. I know I do better with my spouse. Inspiring, intelligent, joyful. A leader, somebody who listens well, logical, lovable, or loving. Loyal, motivating, musical. Musical is not me. Non-judgmental. Is that something you want or you truly are? Observant, orderly, open book. I grew up as that open book wasn't a good thing. You always had these boxes and you hid everything. It's only after lots of camps that I'm trying to be more authentic, more open. Patient, definitely not a skill of mine, but maybe I look at Stephen and how patient he is with his patients and team. So it can be something you see and you love in others. Peaceful, perseverant, or persevering, pleasant, positive, protective. A quick learner, resilient, respectful, risk taker, sensual, sensitive, spontaneous, straightforward, strong, a team player, tolerant, trusting, understanding, a visionary, and wise. I'll repeat some of those at the end. Quick learner, resilient, respectful, sensual, sensitive, spiritual, spontaneous, straightforward, strong team player, tolerant, trusting, understanding, a visionary, or wise. So once you have those top list, circle the top 10 things that work for you, that you are. The top 10 things that you are from the list. And you'll realize that there's so many things from this list. But circle the top 10 things And then after you've circled the top 10 things, you're going to choose your top three. The top three things that you are authentically yourself to create your own power. So your top 10, um, and this is careful because we're taught, especially as women, not or don't toot your own horn. This is the time to toot your own horn. This is your time to shine. This is your time to pick these adjectives that make you feel great. All right, to make you feel good, and then to narrow it down to the top three. So for me, fairness was a justice right from the beginning with my brother and I. Oh, like that was high on my integrity list. Is things needed to be fair. um, Hardworking, hardworking mom and father, even though they divorced. Uh, that was number one integrity area for me. And being responsible for whatever I said I do, I do. I'd always be responsible. But what are your top three adjectives that really are authentic you? And then the goal is to put them where you brush your teeth, to read them out loud to yourself in the mirror, those three adjectives every single day, at least twice a day when you brush your teeth. So, by my brushing my teeth, I believe in fairness. I am hardworking. I am responsible to build my own inner power, my own inner strength to manage all of these challenges that we face each day. To put that's something that we're building within ourselves. Um, I personally put it where I put my mission statement because I have my mission statement where I brush my teeth as well. And my affirmations are there also. So, my mission statement, my affirmations, and the three words that really make me feel strong, make me feel authentic. So that even if you wake up and it's a tough day, you're tired, you didn't sleep, or you're sore, whatever the reason is, you don't feel your best, you're comparing, you have something that is a place to go, a place to read, a place to internalize that makes you feel strong, makes you feel powerful. So that's our goals today, to cover any questions, building our women up, building our team up. This is an exercise that you can do with your team, male or female, to help them feel strong. And coming up for our next talk is to go over the blocks. What blocks us from being our best and how to manage those blocks. That's one of the goals to cover, and how to cover the FAST model for the modern woman. Those are some of the areas that I want to cover. And then we're going to be covering how to create healthy thoughts for our women, and how to deal with the negative Nelly thoughts coming up. But as we leave today, the goal is we have our three power words that help us feel great. And then that list of things that you'd like to be, if you can pick one that you're going to work on, and then realize the ones that what other people want really don't matter. Uh, Focus on you, focus on the authentic you. And the other first bit of homework was writing down that list of 5 little things, not business goals, not um, fix the house, garden, 5 little things that make you successful on a daily basis. And to realize that each one of us is special, is doing our best, and we get to choose what's important to us. So, thank you for the first women's call.
I don't have any questions, but I just want to say thank you very much. And I really appreciate your transparency on that. And I'm still stuck on the whole milkshake down the front of my pants comment, and I can't seem to get my mind past that. So that was that was great, Justine. It's amazing. And I'm gonna actually play this recording for Kim because I know she will relate very much on
Mhm.
especially the part about wanting to talk things out. And I just basically do this and I move on. So that was brilliant. Good job.
And if you listen to Pastor Aaron, he'll say you need to stop the merry-go-round if you want to score.
Yep.
That's words, not mine. But,
Yep.
like we're built differently and beautifully.
Yep. For sure.